running through cash to clean out that.
Well, hello. It's Wednesday in the Rib. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And what's up, guys? I guess the snow's going to stay here till the sun melts it because Fall River's in
Because
the
we're in a deep freeze. We're in a deep freeze, baby.
Yeah, even though we got a few little halfway decent warm days, the streets, people are complaining all over the place. You can't get a parking place, and you can't see. I'm surprised there hasn't been even more accidents.
I'm surprised there haven't been more shootings and stabbings.
Yeah, I know. I see the lawn chairs. I see the lawn chairs and stuff like that. What's up, James? I see the lawn chairs out there, the picnic chairs and stuff like that out there, reserving the spots, and yeah, it's crazy. But again, I got that material you sent me about the bazillions of dollars they're going to spend down there in the Duval corridor. So, all this stuff was in the hopper. We predicted this thing when we talked about why they waived that, how much money we spend, because the taxpayers are we're just going to get hammered. Just going to get hammered from because we pay double. That Healy put billions of dollars in to subsidize the MBTA. So we're already paying for that on the state level, because she put that in her budget. Money for that useless MBTA that's always running in the hole. They're not going to do anything to fix it, make it more efficient and cost effective. They're just going to keep draining the taxpayer, letting it run in the hole. It's kind of like the post office. No matter how much money they lose, they subsidize everything. And the taxpayer subsidizes it. We're subsidizing it. Then we're going to pay again on a local level. Because they've got these grandiose plans down there, and we've already blown $7 million on benches and lights down there. It's crazy. So, again, where's the accountability? And speaking of accountability, CJ, let's segue into what the Attorney General talked about accountability. Go for it, baby. Bang.
Basically, what she said is Paul Coogan is a dictator. Basically, she said he's an asshole. And the reason she said that was they wanted to audit the school department. Paul said no. They wanted executive session meetings. Paul said no. They wanted documentation. Paul said no. I guess it is North Korea over there.
Yeah. And they get away with it.
That's right.
Now, here's the Attorney General. Where their politicians can do anything they want. Yeah, you're right, James. And here is the vindication. Here is the vindication for Colin Dyers and Curley telling him, "Shut up! I'm shutting off my. You're not getting any information." Coogan saying, "You don't need the numbers to vote on a budget. You just vote the way I want." This is the corrupt government being corrupt. And you know what's going to happen? The Attorney General is going to tell them that they're not abiding by the law, but nobody's going to enforce the law. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see if the school committee does something. Let's see if the school committee tells Paul Coogan, Give us the information, or we're going to go to court. The Attorney General's already told you. We've said this for how many years on this show? I've showed you the case law. You have to give people numbers that are fiduciaries. This is nuts. I mean, this city is just absolutely ridiculous with this shit. I mean, it's crazy town over here. Nobody gets to see the books, but look, this is Democrats. Welcome to the Democratic world. They yell all the time about everybody else being what they are, calling everybody fascists and Nazis, and they act like fascists and Nazis.
They're not Democrats. They're Democrats.
They demonize everybody. And look, they were yelling about they don't want to enforce the immigration laws. They want to be able to shoot people they disagree with. And now they set up checkpoints. They were stopping cars, demanding. Remember, they said, "Oh, ICE, show us your papers." Well, they were asking for the people to show their papers to prove they weren't ICE agents. They were running their plates. I mean, talk about shit. Oh yeah, and there's more talk about the recall, I guess now. Yeah.
And remember, Josh, it's more calming now that Mike Sylvia from the Fall River Reporter and Cliff Ponte from the Fall River City Council have taken over.
Remember, we have renamed this. We suck even more at radio now.
That's right.
That's what it is. We suck even more at radio. So this is a joke. Everything's propaganda. This is what the Democrats do. This is what the mainstream media does. They poison everybody's, they dumbed everybody down, and people believe their shit. You notice, did the mainstream media cover those checkpoints where they were going up to cars and demanding identification to prove you're not ICE? Well, they're not cops. They're not law enforcement. But they're doing what fascists do. Show us your papers.
Well, I spoke with a friend of ours, the open meeting law guru, who said it's time for the president to change the name of ICE to the National Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency.
Oh, like because they
can go around and say nice all the time.
Yeah, that's why they'll really call them a Nazi.
Yep.
Because they're going to say that's nationalizing it. But look, it's bullshit. And the irony is that this is a small percentage of the country. This is the nuts in Minneapolis, the nuts in Portland. And then they get these kids that want a day off from school. They're walking around, they're idiots. They don't know anything. But look at the rest of Minnesota. ICE got in and out. Homer was on the air the other day saying in other parts of Minnesota, law enforcement's cooperate with them.
Right.
They go to the jails. They pick up the rapists and the murderers and the felons, and they get them out, and they're fine. But look at, and this is what gets me about the mainstream media, because they are aiding and abetting this lie. Nobody in the mainstream media is showing it, but also remember, this is not the first time this has happened there. Remember CHOP? They started their own country. They burnt the city down and created a nation within a nation of CHOP, and they just let them go. That place, I think that in order to hold office in Minneapolis, that you have to have a lobotomy. I mean, and they project everything. They accuse everyone of what they are. They're fascists. They're Nazis. Look, they're asking for ID. Of course they ask for your ID. If a cop stops you, he asks for your license and registration. So you say, okay, I am a valid driver. I got a registration. If you got a bitch, then you can go to court. But no, they're doing their job. But they're vilifying them, yet they're doing the same thing. Now they're looking for ICE agents. They're stopping cars. And what's the mayor doing? And of course, the police chief of Minnesota, when pressed on it, said, oh, well, we'll enforce it. They don't have the right to do that. They're not law enforcement officers. Yeah, horse shit. We know
what
that.
Are they then?
But look at this. Look at this city. We're out of control. How much is this snowstorm going to cost us? Have we had a press conference? They're still moving snow around. What's this going to cost us? I want to know. I got to pay for this shit. And I was out again with my icebreaker and 2 different shovels to widen my driveway again so I can get out of my damn driveway. Because I got a 5-foot solid ice snowdrift that they plowed into my side of the street. I'm on the hydrant side. They've also lost a lot of parking because if you didn't shovel out the day after the storm, you can't shovel it out now. It'll take you 3 days to shovel it out. So,
you know what's interesting is, I thought the snow was supposed to be plowed to the parking side of the street because the hydrant side of the street was supposed to be clear for emergency vehicles. Wasn't that the intent initially?
What's that?
Wasn't that the intent initially?
I think so. I got to get back here. Cliff Peckham. Yeah, well, at least, he's not talking to dead people yet, in the audience. So. That was a Freudian slip. He was hoping that Chris Peckham would become Cliff and sell out. Well, he didn't actually sell out. He bought out. Well, the AG can do a lot, but they won't. This is the problem. Politics is in this country. This state is so democratic.
Well, like Paul said, you gotta be part of the club.
Somebody's going to pick up the phone and say, "Leave them alone. This will blow over." Listen. Our own state representatives and our state senators have said, "You want an audit? Fuck you.
Right.
We're not doing it. I'm sorry. Bad language, but I'm pissed." The Constitution clearly states that the people, they're answerable to the people at all branches of government. It says it in Article 5, part of the first. Read the Constitution. Go there, Commonwealth of Massachusetts Constitution, get by the preamble, go into part of the first, look at Article 4 that says we're the government. Article 5 then says that all branches of government, be they executive, judicial, or legislative, are all answerable to the people at all times. So 72% of the people in the state wanted an audit. And they went, "I don't care. We don't care. We got sworn into office. We swear to abide by the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts." Well, the Constitution told you that you've got to listen to us. You're answerable to us. We said we want an audit. You went, "No." Just like when we said we wanted the sales tax reduced. You said, "No." We wanted judges elected. You said, "No." You don't care. This is what you get when you have a one-party system. Talk about fascism and authoritarianism. You're looking at it in the state of Massachusetts. That's what you're looking at. Because this state, somebody's going to pick up a phone and they're going to say, "Leave them alone." You send them a nasty letter, and then that's how bad the government is. Oh, listen, there's so much fraud in this country. James, that's why their hair burst into flames when Trump brought in Elon Musk and started Doge. I mean, we're talking trillions, not billions. Billions is a lot. trillions of dollars. They just found another one up there in Somalia land. The Somalis are buying houses, saying they're home daycare centers, and billing for home health care, and there's nobody in the houses. They don't even occupy the house. The houses are empty. Millions more. Listen.
What's interesting is this SNAP benefit fraud
Yep.
wasn't only in Massachusetts. It was in several other states, including Rhode Island. And here's how they caught them, which shows you how smart they are or how stupid they are, depending on how you want to look at it. They applied for food stamp or SNAP benefits under multiple names and social security numbers, all at the same address. Hundreds of people living at the same address. That's how they were caught. Imagine that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And you know what DeZoglio said when she heard it? Because she heard it after the fact. But the U.S. Attorney of Massachusetts said, it's very easy to find this fraud. All you have to do is look at it.
Yeah, well, but they don't.
Imagine
they
that.
ignore it.
Imagine
You know
that.
Because half of them are making money off of these
That's
things.
right.
And Jeff, I don't know what Bobby you're talking about that they wouldn't allow on WSI.
Bobby Kudo.
Oh, okay.
He has a podcast.
Okay. Because I don't listen to that crap. So it's like, yeah, well, listen, nobody gets on. Bobby Bod, CJ, I was Bod. I used to be on years ago. I was on fairly regularly. We were on during the recall. But after that, it was like when we used to call, we were Bod. And I wouldn't call anyway because, you call, they give you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and they hang up on you. Then they editorialize and lie about everything. And I always said, if you want to talk to me, let me come to the show so I can debate the host.
Right.
And they did that. They didn't do that one time. They did it with the schools, but they gave me like a couple of minutes and they ambushed me in a 2 or 3 minute debate and tried to make it look bad, but they only made themselves look bad. And then the guy that was yelling, the kids, which had nothing to do with the kids. It was about the money. He got brought up on charges of being a pedophile.
There you go.
So there you go. Talk about having a worm turn. So that's the irony of this shit. But I mean, look, this state's nuts. They're all nuts. The fraud is running rampant everywhere. And they won't audit it because they're going to go, half of them are going to go to jail.
Right. Hey, Dan, we have no
wants an
idea.
audit?
We have no idea, Dan, who's putting together the recall. We haven't been approached. We haven't been asked. That's fine. We don't care.
I don't know who's trying to put it together. I wish them a lot of luck. We've gone on record. I've gone on record, and CJ, I believe it's like said. I believe that the deal has been made that Coogan is not going to finish his term, and then Cliffy plans on becoming an acting mayor. Then they'll have an election. Then he'll figure that gave him a leg up. I guess he doesn't believe in. If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. He was the acting mayor at one time.
That's right.
And he thought he was going to become the mayor, and he didn't. So it may happen all over again. So the best laid plans of mice and men sometimes go awry. But the thing is that I think this is in a deal. So by the time you get done waiting for the waiting period to go by, file the paperwork, get through all this shit. It's nearly a year. Remember, we voted on our recall on December 16th, which was basically the last month of the first year, because in January, he took office the previous January. So 12 months later, it took 12 months. I don't think Coogan's going to be around with a year left in his term.
Well, what's interesting is, if you remember correctly, we started in April. Did we not?
Yeah, but we had been planning this for,
But what I'm saying is we started the formal process in April.
Yeah.
Okay? And there were 3 attempts before that, which fizzled. It wasn't until our attempt that it actually moved forward and gained traction.
Mm-hmm.
But we started in April. We went through 20 days in the middle of the summer to get the signatures. And then they scheduled the election in December. Why? Why couldn't they schedule it in November? Oh, it was a state election. Can't do that. Wasn't enough time. People need time.
Yeah, but they also dragged us in front of the election.
In front of the courts. How many times?
In front of the court. We went to court in New Bedford, and they threw every obstacle known to man. It is not that easy. One of the meetings was there. The first meeting, I believe, before we began actual meetings of the people involved was when we had that meeting at the Elks. The Elks.
In a room that fit 35 people, and we had the room overflowed with people in the parking lot.
Yep. And then that's right, Josh. We had a meeting in your kitchen. But you guys worked, like CJ said, we went out and we had people in a kitchen on Birch Street collating all the petitions, recording all the signatures that could be called into question, so we could advocate. There was a lot of moving parts, and guys and girls like Josh and the people who worked on it, they worked their ass off. I mean, they were out there every day. They were in Walmart parking lot. They were in Stop and Shop. They were knocking on doors.
Market Basket, you name it, they were there.
They were. People don't realize how much work behind the scenes goes into that and how many moving parts there are. When we went to court, we had 3 copies of every single petition. When we were in front of the Board of Elections, and they were saying this signature, we already had that signature recorded. We had already confirmed. We'd already looked at it, and we basically got the ones, most of them approved. But there was a hell of a lot of work. We had those people in that kitchen on Birch Street every single day. I was riding around on my motorcycle, picking up the petitions. CJ was bringing the petitions and the voter registrations down to City Hall. There was a lot of that. Was a 7-day a week.
We didn't stop day and night.
And
8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, they were out in the parking lots collecting signatures.
And I'll tell you, it was. People have no idea. They just remember the vote. They remember a couple of standouts. But a lot of people did a lot of work, and they deserve a lot of credit. I've always given them credit. A lot of moving parts in those things, and there's a lot of obstructions thrown in your path. Coogan's going to say no to the AG. Let's see what the AG says. So everybody in Fall River should call the AG's office and say, make the mayor do what he's supposed to do.
That's right.
People of Fall River want an audit. Call the AG's office. Email the AG's office. Tell them this is outrageous. And I mean, we said it's outrageous from the get-go. We know that. We've seen it on camera. We've seen the superintendent tell school committee people, I'm not answering those questions. Shut up. You're not getting the information you want. I work for you, but fuck you. And so does Coogan. Vote on this. Well, I want to see the numbers. No, you're not seeing the numbers. Just vote. This is the money I need. Give me the money. I don't have to prove why I need it. Oh, yes, you do. I got the court cases. We've shown them for years. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to do this as long as they get away with it. And I'll tell you what, I hope, in a way, I hope they recall him, because regardless, we're going to have an election. If he steps down, we're going to end up probably with an election, and hopefully we'll have some candidates that actually are going to work for the people of Fall River. Maybe we can get people, riled up enough this summer to actually make some changes, because Listen, you let these people stay in charge, nothing changes. Democrats destroy the country. That's what they do for their own power. We've seen it. We look at what's happening up there. You look at all the fraud. You look at all, they don't change. Then they call them Nazis, but they're stopping people. Look at Chicago. I had to write this stat down. I was watching it last weekend. Now, Chicago's got a black mayor who's got like a 12% approval rate. Sanctuary city, they're giving billions of dollars to the illegals. And so, look, Chicago's been a war zone for years, and it's been run by Democrats for years. As is Baltimore, as is Detroit, as is most of these. Last weekend in Chicago, there were 103 people shot. 103, 29 died. You hear him mention that on any kind of media? No. No, you're right. But it is, unfortunately, he is, you'd have to change that. Oh. Well, I hope you do. I think we need to recall. I think we need to recall half of the city council too.
We started in April and we didn't get a vote until December 16th.
Well, maybe they won't fight you, but they fought us tooth and nail. But then again, we had a mayor who got elected by 75% of the vote, but we bounced him anyway.
That's right.
That mayor had a lot of money and a lot of power, and he owned the elections board. We had to go before the elections board. We had to go through the legal process. They took us to court. We had to go to court. So don't be making, you're going to run it, but you're going to have to do what you have to do. And but then again, they may just throw in a towel. Coogan was going to leave anyway. This may be the excuse that Coogan's looking for to get out and say, screw it. Let him have the recall. Maybe Cliffy will think he can win the election and everybody will be on board, hopefully. But remember one thing. They easily got the signatures against Jazel.
That's right.
Because everybody was pissed off at Jazel. But then when it went to the polls, what happened?
He got reelected.
There's another part of a recall. You've got to make sure you've got a viable candidate, and people. You got to get people out to vote. So that's. But you run it. You got your petition. I will sign it. First petition I see, I will sign it. I will sign anybody's petition. I would even sign Paul Coogan's nomination papers if he ran again. I would never vote for him, but I believe anybody.
I agree, James.
It is.
I've said it to 2 city councils already. Okay? That's his employer. He will benefit from the fact that is his employer. He needs to keep his mouth shut. He can't vote on it. He can't speak on it. He can't talk on it. He can't do anything. It's an ethical violation. But our ethics commission goes, well, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, no, you're right. And he does benefit from that because if the diocese gets a lot of money, they could actually earmark that money, some of that money for his school. So, but again,
I asked Michelle about that, Dan. She says, I guess I'm going to have to make a stink about it. I said, we're waiting. I said, we're waiting. I said, Sean wants us to have a town form of government. I agree, we should. Because we can't trust them. $30 million for Conley. And then, you got to love this one. I find out that, first off, they're displacing the retired priest from living at that building. Secondly, it's 55 acres of land. That 55 acres of land, the city's going to take. Not the school department. The city's going to take it. And then the school building will go to the school department.
Yeah, but...
And the reason the city wants the land is they've got a soccer field, a football field. They want all of that so that they can rent it out for revenue, which they'll never do. Because as soon as they say, we're a non-profit baseball league, we're a non-profit, they don't charge them any fees.
Yeah.
We don't have one Little League field in the city that's paid for.
We even
have one guy who's got a baseball league that's making money off of it, but he's not paying the city a dime. Not even for lights.
Well, look,
that's a problem.
Make something perfectly clear again for the fucking millionth time, because I'm sick of telling everybody this. The school department isn't a city. It's part of the city of Fall River. They may have autonomy, specific autonomy for administration of the school department under ed reform. Their budget still has to be approved by the city council. They are part of the city. So when they buy something, the city is in essence buying it. They are the de facto boss. The school department is just another department in the city. It stands alone because of legislation, which I've always disagreed with, that gives them autonomy in many aspects of the way they run the school department. Oh no, you guys can say anything you want. We WSAR allowed us to be what they thought it was going to blow up on our face, but it blew up in their face. But they allowed us to be on every single noon hour on the news. And Barry Richards interviewed me, and when I wasn't available, he interviewed CJ. Every day they thought they were going to make us look bad, but then it blew up in their face because people began to get the information they needed about the recall. No, you're welcome to make any kind of statement you got or anything. That's good. And if the anti recall people want to come on, we'll be glad to say why we believe there should be one. So. Oh, look, these states are they're just dismal fail. And that's what happens when you get one party rule. I mean, you just look at it. Like I said, Chicago, that's horrifying. 103 people shot. Nobody cares about the south side of Chicago. I mean, that place has been a war zone for years. They even made a song, Jim Croce. I don't know if you guys know who Jim Croce was. Great folk singer. Made some of the greatest songs in the world. Don't Mess Around with Jim. Iconic songs, but
bad
Leroy Brown, and so, but bad Leroy Brown, the baddest man.
Baddest man in the whole damn town.
Leroy Brown starts with the south side of Chicago. The movie, the song starts with the south side of Chicago. One of the opening lines is the south side of Chicago is the baddest part of town. And if you go down there, you just better beware of a man named Leroy Brown. So, I mean, the south side of Chicago has been a war zone for years.
For many
they don't
decades.
Do anything about it because they're rich. They live in a different part of the city, and they will let the regular people suffer crime like the Democrats will in Minnesota. They will protect rapists and murderers and pedophiles. Let Somalis run rampant. And listen, what was the primary thing Somali does? Pirates. Somali pirates. Well, that's a common rumor. We consider it a Class A rumor. Um, uh, I'm glad you asked CJ to sing it, not me, because I can't sing. I was barred from singing when I was in school because they said
my voice is no better.
So, yeah. Well, the comment, like everybody, and that rumor's gotten a lot of traction. Like we got Class A rumors, Class D rumors, and but that rumor's got a lot of traction. It makes a lot of sense because just like we said, there was something afoot when Kadeem wanted to get rid of the taxpayers having to weigh in on expenditures. We said they got something. There's something there. We don't know what it is, and we found out right away. $30 million. That's $10 million more than the cap was. So now they don't have to ask permission to screw us. And look, hopefully you'll be successful in getting the ballot. That'll make a special election. And then, there'll be an election anyway, because if he steps down, Cliffy will be interim mayor. And then there'll be a special election. And so we'll get an election. But Cliffy, this is the Cliffy Sean show getting ready to take the city over there. The powers to be have made enough money. Now they're gonna spend billions of dollars down the Duval corridor. You sent me that material. They're going to spend literally billions of dollars. They're all going to get rich down there. They've raped the city enough. They're going to just focus on the Duval corridor, and they're going to turn the reins of corruption over to the next group of power brokers, and it's up to the citizens of Fall River to stop it. Listen, this is only the beginning. They're going to spend $30 million. They don't talk about the money. See, that's why they're afraid of an audit. They're not going to talk about how bad we are financially until they have to tell you, well, we need purple bags again, or we need this, or we have to, when they're going to need an override. You notice everybody forgot about Diamond.
Right. Nobody's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about Diamond.
Right.
Where's Diamond? We got to pay for the freaking thing. We didn't even get to vote on it, but we're going to pay for it. So how do you think we're going to pay for it? Somebody is somebody going to have a giant shit money all over us? No, we're going to have to pay. Yeah, we're going to have to pay. Yeah, Mundami. Yeah, everybody gets everything for free, and we can let the rich people pay for everything. Well, the rich people don't stay. If I'm a rich guy and I can live anywhere I want, you think I'm going to live in New York City too long if you're going to just bend me over? No. There goes all the rich people, and that city is going to be, listen,
imagine if Trump gets his way and he abolishes local property taxes. Can you imagine what Fall River would do? They would have a heart attack.
Oh, you would have to. It would be in receivership. Look, Fall River doesn't have any economy.
Well, and I told this to a city councilor yesterday. I said, Fall River has been, will be, and is now a welfare city. Welfare city. If we don't get money from the feds and the state, we're broke. Our own tax revenues do not cover our expenses.
They never have.
They never have, and
We
that's
have been
the
a
problem.
welfare city
That's
forever.
why we remain a welfare city.
I had to tell my membership that because they didn't understand. Guys used to complain to me about how Somerset firefighters were making more than Fall River firefighters, and we have more fires in a month than they have in a year, or 2 years, or maybe 3 years, or 4 years at that time. I don't know what the stats are now, but we got a lot more here. And then I had to explain to them. At the time, Somerset had the power companies paying taxes. 90% of the property in Somerset is taxable. Do you know that less than 50% of the property in Fall River isn't taxable?
Right?
It's either city land or church land.
Right.
I had to explain that. I said, it's simple math, people. I said, we don't, you know that Somerset makes almost as much in tax revenue as Fall River, but they've got like a 30-man fire department. I said that at the time, I said, no, you know why they get more money? Because they got more money to spend. I said, the fire department budget at the time was larger than the entire Somerset town budget. So I said, every time they give the fire department or police department a raise, it costs millions because of the number of people on the job. Every time they give school teachers, because they have a tax base. Fall River's never had a tax base. Once we lost the mills, it was gone. We were
That's
done.
right.
We've been a welfare city. We depend on handouts for everybody, and they spend money like we're Newton. Newton's got a tax base.
And you know what's really funny? Fall River is always going hat in hand to the federal government and the state. Always. Yet, when we've got homeless veterans asking for a quarter on our streets,
That's right.
they want to lock them up and put them in jail.
That's it.
No accountability. The rules are different. It's not fair.
Right.
Fall River doesn't pay its bills. Who cares? We'll pay them when we pay them. We can't get plow drivers. Why? We don't pay them for 6 months. Do you want to wait 6 months for your pay? I don't. We don't pay enough. That's nothing new.
Yeah, we don't pay enough. Except they don't understand.
What are you looking up?
I'm just looking up the owner-occupied percentages. We got like 35% is owner-occupied. Newton's like 90%, 88%. That's the problem. We're talking about taxes. We got a lot of absentee landlords. That's why, because all their rich power broker friends, they don't want to adopt that thing. That was a great idea, which is some communities, to protect their homeowners, have a different rate for owner-occupied buildings.
Yes.
Than they do for absentee landlords, like these slumlords, what they're going to turn into slums. That's the key. I just wanted to look up the our median poverty level is still, our per capita income went up from 31,993 to 32,610. We still got a 19.6% poverty rate, which is nearly 20%, 1 out of 5 people. And our median household income went up from 53 to 56, which is still well below the average. Newton is like 185,000. So therein lies the rub. You know, people don't know how to look at data and interpret data. This city's been a welfare city, and we got a council that thinks we're freaking Newton. Listen, if the average per capita income in Fall River was $100,000, okay. But I just saw a stat the other day that Trump has brought down the average median rent down to $1,300 and change. Fall River, it's like $1,500 and $2,000.
Right.
And what is our per capita income? I just read it. It's now $32,610. How can you expect people to make $32,000 to pay $1,500 a month rent? and the rent's going down everywhere in the United States, the median income, Fall River's continuing to go up. There's something wrong. And you know what that is? The government.
The Democrats.
That's right. The Democrats. They don't care. I mean, just look at the numbers. And these are United States Census Bureau, and AI is lying because whoever programs AI is a commie. Because I looked up the AI per capita income. It's not even close to the real income. But AI lies. And people love to use AI now. It was like when you put in Kamala Harris, it talked about how great she was. And if you put in Donald Trump, it wouldn't even answer your questions. So, yeah, you're right, James. That's no, he's mad at Hochul because he wants everybody's money. And you're right, James. They don't pay their bills, but they don't care about spending money. But
that's right. That's right.
When does the city council? Have you ever heard a city councilor say, "Well, I think we better watch how much we spend because we haven't paid our snowplow drivers. Nobody would sell us tires at one time. We didn't pay people for doing work for Fall River, and they weren't doing it very recently." You can't pay your freaking bills. If you operated the way Fall River does, then you couldn't get a credit card. You couldn't get a loan. If you went into a bank with the abysmal record of Fall River, you couldn't get a loan. But because they can take it out of our the surrounding, that's not a valid comparison, though, because the bottom line is you got to look at income. All our surrounding communities have nearly double the per capita freaking income. That's why nobody in Fall River can get workforce housing, because workforce housing has a minimum income required to get it and a maximum income to get it. And Fall River, most of the people in Fall River can't reach the minimum income standard to even qualify for that form of quote unquote affordable housing. We got 32,610 now, but you go over to Westport, it's like 60, 70, Seekonks 80, something like that. You look around the area, and that's the problem with workforce housing, geographical areas. I'm glad you brought it up, the Nantucket rents. The problem is everything is relative. And, Healy talks about affordable rent because she lives in a dream world. She doesn't realize it. If you're making $32,000 a year, you're eating on a McDonald's value meal. You're not going to the steakhouse every week. You're not eating filet mignon. You're not going to the fancy restaurants in Boston. No, people in Newton do. But it's apples and oranges. That's why there are cities like Detroit. And it's not about how much money it is how much money they make, but it's how much money and the way their government spends it. Detroit is a blue city. They destroyed Detroit. It'll never ever be anything again. They destroyed Baltimore. Look at Miami. Miami was wrecked. They had still got one of the greatest tourist industries around with South Beach, but they didn't spend their money correctly. Miami was a terrible place to live. A lot of crime, but they've cleaned that up recently. The last couple of mayors have been hot on crime, and they've changed the city. Atlantic City is another classic example of that. They made literally billions of dollars in Atlantic City. But if you walked off the boardwalk in Atlantic City, you were in a freaking war zone. Yeah, well, Worcester's a
What's
very,
in the world in itself?
yeah, Worcester's a very large city. Also, it's like the second largest, the third largest city in the state. I don't know if
Well,
Springfield.
it's just like the fact, and Michelle Dion brought it up, and I appreciate that she did. Um, where she said maybe Fall Rivers needs to start looking at parking permits for people to park on the streets. It's a relatively easy thing to do. 2 parking permits per unit. The vehicle must be registered in Massachusetts and must be registered in the city. If they're not, they don't get the parking permit. And if you're parked in the neighborhood and you don't have a parking permit, you get a ticket. Especially during a snowstorm. And as for all these variances granted by the zoning board of the Zoning Bribery Association, otherwise known as the ZBA, giving variances on parking requirements, that's bullshit. Put in a city ordinance that the Zoning Bribery Association can't change that says you must have 2 parking spaces per unit.
Oh, but they don't do anything right. And I just pulled up a comparison. I got them both now with the U.S. Census Bureau. Owner-occupied housing units, 70% in Newton, 35% in Fall River. And you get down to the poverty rate. Poverty rate in Fall River is 19.6%. It's 4.5% in Newton. The average household income in Fall River is 54,000. Newton is 190,000. The per capita income is 32,610, and the average per capita income is 97,500, nearly $100,000 a year. This is the problem. People love to try to pretend that we're going to become a Newton. Newton is very unique. It's a bedroom community near Boston, and a lot of those people are professors, and they got big jobs in Boston. They commute into Boston. It's not an inner city with a lot of high crime. 70% of the buildings are only owner-occupied. You don't have a lot of 3-deckers and multiple families. And that's the thing. People love to start. But you got to compare apples and apples. You compare Fall River with who? New Bedford, Lowell, Lawrence. That's who you compare Fall River with. You don't compare Fall River with Newton and cities like Newton, because they can't. But our city council thinks they're in Newton.
Right.
There's the problem. Yeah, no, it's a catastrophe. I guess Providence is taking a lot of heat too. The businesses are getting killed, but the only good thing in Fall River, a lot of businesses are not complaining because we don't have a lot of businesses.
Yeah, but the thing is this: the parking clerk and the deputy chief all were against residential parking permits. Then the deputy chief said, that might be an idea we need to look at.
Whoa,
the parking clerk is a dead set against it because she can't pick her ass without having a vote of Congress. She doesn't want to do the work. And I understand it's going to make it difficult. I understand. People can say, but I have 2 kids and both have a car. And there's me and my husband. And we have a car each. Well, guess what? When it comes to a parking ban, where do they park? And if you're not a resident and you're parking in a parking ban, you want to be sure you have a parking space. Somebody's going to get shot. Somebody's going to get stabbed.
Listen,
we just hasn't happened yet here, but it's going to happen. There are
No,
signs
you're right.
up in Boston on parking spaces saying, if you park here, I park tires. They're not playing games. They're not playing games.
Oh, you're
You
right. But
still
listen,
have two-way streets in this city, which can only handle one lane of traffic.
a lot of them now. A lot of them. But you're right. But look, this city never entertains anything that's good for the city or for the people.
You're right, John.
No, you're right, and that's the key. But they got people are going to get to the like I said. But we keep saying it. But listen, that idea of having a two-tiered system of property taxes is pro city resident. It prevents you from becoming. I don't even describe it.
The dynamic duo of dysfunction.
Nice, I like that one, Stevie.
Ponte's quote, haven't you noticed we always escape the vicious enchantments of our enemies? Kadeem. Yeah, because we're smarter than they are. Ponte, I like to think it's because our hearts are pure. Yeah.
Oh God, you got to write for TV, Stevie. You should write for one of these shows. I'm telling you, that's beautiful. I love that one.
That's absolute bullshit.
And remember, we're passionate. Remember when he came to the aid of Batman and said, he's not an asshole, he's passionate.
He's passionate.
So there you go. But it's all in the semantics. Remember, crazy people aren't crazy if they're rich. They're eccentric.
Right. They're eccentric.
They're eccentric.
That's
Remember,
right.
you treat the people with power differently. They're eccentric. They're not crazy. And this is what you get. And it's a sad, but when you got a city like Fall River and you're going to load it up with rents that nobody can afford, you're going to end up with Section 8s or illegals in these places, and you're going to turn the city into Detroit. That's why you don't see these kind of constructions in Newton and Wellesley and cities like this, because they're predominantly single-family homes, and there are not a lot of.
That's why you see cities like Newton and Wellesley fighting the MBTA zoning requirements.
That's right. And the thing is, they don't want that stuff there because they know what it's going to do. And the reality is that Fall River doesn't want that. Our politicians don't want that because it's all their friends making the money, the carpetbaggers. They're the ones getting the tips. They're the ones making all the money. And they don't care if they turn this into Detroit, because they're gonna move away. Cliffy's a big successful, and good for him. Very successful entrepreneur, with the emphasis on manure.
You got. I was gonna say it's entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
That's right. Entrepreneur. Hey, for those of you who are asking, the Attorney General's office phone number in New Bedford is 508-990-9700. The number in Boston is 617-727-2200. Call the Attorney General's office and demand that they force the Fall River School Committee to turn over the documents. Demand it. Because it's our right to know. Remember that. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday. Have a great night.